Today we're going to talk about seniors beware, 5 supplements that may do more harm than good. Now the reason I chose this topic is because 1 in 3 adults over the age of 50 take 1 or more dietary supplements. And for those over the age of 60, it goes up to 43%. So a lot of people take supplements thinking that they're doing something good for their health, but unfortunately there are certain supplements that can actually be dangerous. So that's why I wanted to make this video. The other thing is most people don't realize that as you age, your nutrient needs change. For example, calcium, vitamin D, vitamin B12. Protein and fiber are very common nutrients that people need more of as they age. And also your absorption of these nutrients may go down, so just taking more of them may not be enough. You might need to absorb them better. So if you want to learn more about how to absorb nutrients better, check out this video right here. I go into much more detail. Let's get into the 5 supplements that could be dangerous. The first one is called comfrey. Now this is a herb that has been used for a long time to treat wounds and heal the body, especially in Europe. Fortunately, if you take high doses or you take it for a long period of time, it can be very toxic to the liver. In fact, they've done studies with rats. They found that comfrey was toxic to the liver, so please stay away from that one. No. 2 is echinacea. Echinacea is an herb that people use mostly to prevent and treat colds and flu. And so what they did with this herb is they looked at 20 different studies, and they concluded that echinacea was not effective against colds and flu. In fact, some of these studies showed that it actually made things worse, so I wouldn't waste your money on that one. The third one on the list is garlic. Garlic is another herb that people have used for medicinal purposes for a long time. However, if you take large amounts of it, it can increase your risk of bleeding. So if you're taking any blood-thinning medications like warfarin or even aspirin, you can have excessive bleeding if you're taking too much garlic. So again, stay away from large amounts of garlic. The fourth one on the list is ginkgo biloba. This is a supplement that's popular for cognitive support, brain support. People take it for memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. Well, there was a study that was done looking at 156 people that had moderate to severe Alzheimer's. And they took ginkgo biloba extract for about 6 months. And they found that it did not slow down the progression of Alzheimer's. And they also noted that ginkgo biloba can cause side effects like headaches, nausea, and even more cognitive problems. So again, stay away from that one. And no, 5 on the list is milk thistle. Milk thistle is an herb that has been used for a long time for liver support. However, if you have liver disease, whether it's alcoholic liver disease or non-alcoholic liver disease, taking milk thistle can actually make it worse. There was a case report of a man who was 37 years old. He started taking milk thistle because he thought it would help his liver. Unfortunately, it actually made his liver worse, and he ended up dying from liver failure. So again, stay away from milk thistle, especially if you have liver disease. Now there are some other herbs that are relatively safe that you can take. If you want to learn more about that, check out this video right here. I go into much more detail. But the problem with taking these supplements is that most people think that supplements are regulated. They think that just because it's sold over the counter that it's safe, but that's not true. In fact, dietary supplements are not reviewed or approved by the FDA. Also, the FDA doesn't require proof that a supplement is effective before it goes to market. The manufacturing process for supplements is not inspected by the FDA. So what does this mean? Well, this means that some supplements may contain ingredients that are not listed on the label. It could have too much of a certain ingredient. The quality of the ingredients may be really low. Unfortunately, some supplements are contaminated with harmful things like lead, arsenic, mercury, things like that. In fact, the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, they tested 44 different supplements that were marketed for sexual enhancement. And guess what? None of them had the active ingredient that was listed on the label. Now this is just one example. But my point is that you really have to be careful with what you buy. You have to make sure that it's a reputable brand. Now, when it comes to safety, the Council for Responsible Nutrition, which is a trade association that represents the natural product industry, they set some safety standards. They have a seal that you can look for. It's called the USP Verified Dietary Supplement Label. And this label means that the product was tested to make sure it contains what it says on the label. That it doesn't have anything that's harmful in it, that it will disintegrate within the time frame that's mentioned on the label. The other thing is that sometimes supplements can interact with the medications you're taking, and so you really need to watch out for that. So here are 7 supplements that are most likely to cause interactions with prescription medications. No. One on the list is St. John's wort. St. John's wort can cause you to not absorb certain medications. It can decrease the effectiveness of birth control pills, thyroid hormone replacement medications, HIV medications, cancer medications, immunosuppressant medications, and even blood pressure medications. So make sure you don't take St. John's wort with any of those medications. The next one on the list is ginkgo biloba. Like I said earlier, it's not very effective, but it can also increase your risk of bleeding. So if you're taking blood thinners like warfarin or even aspirin, you definitely don't want to take ginkgo. No. 3 on the list is garlic. Garlic can also increase your risk of bleeding. So again, if you're on blood thinners, you definitely want to avoid garlic. No. 4 on the list is ginkgo. Ginkgo can increase your risk of bleeding. So again, if you're taking any blood thinners, you want to stay away from ginkgo. Number 5 on the list is turmeric. Now, turmeric is actually a very good anti-inflammatory agent. However, if you take too much of it, it can increase your risk of bleeding. So again, if you're taking blood thinners, you want to be careful with turmeric. No. 6 on the list is saw palmetto. Saw palmetto is usually taken for an enlarged prostate. However, if you're taking it for that purpose, you'll have to be careful because it can interfere with certain medications like tamsulosin, terazosin, finasteride. It's also known as Propecia or Proscar, and alfuzosin. And number 7 on the list is valerian root. Valerian root is something that people use for sleep, anxiety, and depression. Fortunately, if you're taking it for that purpose, it can interact with certain antidepressants and sleeping medications. So now you know that some supplements can cause interactions with your medications. But what about supplements that can affect your lab work? You see, when you take certain supplements, it can cause your labs to be off, which can lead to misdiagnosis. One supplement that can do that is iron. If you're taking too much iron, it can cause your doctor to think that you have hemochromatosis. And what is hemochromatosis? Hemochromatosis is a condition where you absorb too much iron from your food. And when you absorb too much iron, it can lead to damage in your liver, your heart, your pancreas, your joints. So when your doctor checks your labs and everything looks abnormal, he may perform a test called a liver biopsy. But it turns out that you didn't have hemochromatosis. You were just taking too much iron. And so now you have to deal with the consequences of having a liver biopsy. Another supplement that can cause misdiagnosis is magnesium. If you're taking too much magnesium, it can lower your calcium levels. And when your calcium levels are low, it can cause your doctor to think that you have hypoparathyroidism. But it turns out you don't have hypoparathyroidism. You were just taking too much magnesium. Another supplement that can affect your labs is vitamin C. When you take too much vitamin C, it can cause your doctor to think that you have diabetes because vitamin C lowers your blood sugar. So now you have to deal with all the extra testing that comes along with that. So my point is that you need to be careful with the supplements that you take. You need to make sure that you don't take too much of them. You need to make sure that you're not taking something that's not going to do anything for your health. You need to make sure that it's a reputable brand. If you want to learn more about supplements that are safe and actually beneficial for your health, click on this video right here. I go into much more detail. So if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button. And if you're new here, please subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1 million subscribers by the end of 2023. Also, I would love to hear from you, so leave me a comment below. What supplements have you taken that caused you some problems? What supplements are you taking that are working well for you? I would love to hear from you. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.